You see, there are only two ways to get Bitcoins. You either buy them or you find them.
Okay. So how many have the computers filmed?
Well, I don't know.
What? You're telling me we've had these on full power for 3 weeks and they've got no Bitcoins?
Hold on, let me log into the account. All right, I'm in.
How many has it made?
We've earned 4 Bitcoins.
What happened?
It's got double the power now, but it's using double the electricity. Are you sure your dad doesn't mind?
Yeah, bro, he doesn't know anything. He doesn't even know what day it is.
All right, leave everything the way it is. Don't let anything interrupt the connection. I'm gonna go home. You wanna get burgers later?
Yeah. What's wrong?
The electricity bill. This is madness.
It has to be a mistake, don't worry. I'll make you the cake, you will feel better.
Boy,
What?
did you see the electricity bill?
Nah, man, why?
It is over $6,000.
No, it's not.
No family in the world uses that much electricity. This is astronomical.
What are you looking at me for? It's probably your electric blanket.
What is all this? Why are all these fans on?
It's cooling down my Bitcoin mining rig.
Bitcoin? What is Bitcoin?
It's an online currency. It's the way of the future. I've already made like 4 Bitcoins. My net worth is like $800.
Really? Where? Show me the Bitcoin.
I can't, it's digital.
You cannot even show me one Bitcoin?
It doesn't work like that.
You are useless.
Yeah, your backward brain is too tiny to understand this stuff.
Me backward. You are the fucking idiot of the family. You do not know what you are doing. This is a scam. Switch it off.
No! When I become a millionaire, the first thing I'm gonna do is put your fat ass in a smelly nursing home, Aussie style.
Yeah?
Yeah, you'll be eating Devon for breakfast every day.
Here!
No, Dad, no. No,
Here!
no, please, Dad.
You idiot! Fucking take this out of my house!
Okay.
Welcome Bitcoin friends, it's Bitcoin Mamo. Today we're going to look at the Bitcoin charts, do some TA, we'll look at various time frames and we'll also take a look at market cipher. Hope you enjoyed that intro. It wasn't the full clip that I wanted to post due to copyright, so I had to break it up into 2. So the ending of that intro will be at the start of my next video. It has been about 6 days since the last video where we did cover a lot of stuff there, more on the macro analysis. We did compare the cycle back in 2014 to 2017 with our current cycle. We found all these key resistance levels on our way back to the previous all-time high, and we found they were golden pocket areas when taking the fib retracements from the top of each of these dead cat bounces to the bear market low. And we used a combination of fibs based on the regular scale and also the log scale. And we applied that to our current cycle and we saw it did line up with our first resistance level and our current resistance level. And then we projected the next possible resistance level, which did have 2 possibilities, one based on the regular scale, one on the log scale. But using this comparison, we noticed that in between both of these first 2 golden pockets, we spent about 6 months here forming this ascending triangle pattern. And we postulated that I think we're doing a similar thing here, forming this ascending triangle pattern. And we have been in this pattern for about 4 months now. So if we were to do a similar thing, it could be 2 more months before we break out of this pattern and try to reach that next upward target. Just to zoom in on that, this was the cycle we're comparing to. We made this triangle pattern here with higher lows and a level of resistance. After we broke through this first key level of resistance where we got rejected a couple of times in the bottom of the bear market. And now with our current cycle, we broke above that first level of resistance here. We got rejected a couple of times, and now I think we're doing a similar thing, forming this ascending triangle pattern. The other thing we did is compare both of these cycles here, our current cycle on the top, and we did notice that we can line these up, looking at the peaks of the top of these dead cat bounces. And when we did line it up with the first peak in our current cycle here, did notice similarities with when these peaks occurred. And we also noticed that it was the same number of days from here to here on both of these cycles. We're not just stretching it to fit. These are actually the same length here. And we saw that this is the area where we drew that triangle pattern in the cycle we're comparing to. And we think we're doing a similar thing with our current price action here. And so based on this, we talked about we could possibly see that next move to the upside, breaking that ascending triangle pattern, possibly sometime in early October, maybe even late September, if we were to do a similar thing. The other thing we didn't look at on this chart is we can pull up some moving averages. We do talk about the 21-week exponential moving average, how it does act as support in bull runs on all the pullbacks. So we'll just pull that one up in orange, and we can also pull up the 50-week moving average in yellow. And we see here how we did get support of that 21-week exponential moving average on these pullbacks as we started the bull market. And we can pull them both up for our current chart also. And we see on this pullback and also this one, we also got support on that 21-week exponential moving average in orange. And when we talk about support, we talk about closing the candles above that moving average. We can wick below it. But even when we pull up these moving averages here, we see we did have a cross here around this period in time. And we also had that same cross in our current cycle around a similar period. And we also noticed they crossed down here with the orange going below the yellow on both of these charts at a very similar time. But is very interesting. We also saw support of the 50-week moving average on this dead cat bounce like we did back here. And it does add to the theory that this was more of a manipulated high here and an overreactive dead cat bounce. And also supported by a lot of indicators. So this was the technical top, even though we made a higher high. There are still arguments for both, and when we do the comparison like this, it does line up pretty well, especially when we add these moving averages in. And if we were to just zoom in on that action here, coming off the bear market low, we've just drawn in that triangle pattern, and this is the previous cycle we're comparing to. We can see where we had this cross here with the 21-week exponential moving average going above the 50-week moving average in yellow, also on this chart. And just showing you how we do bounce off this 21-week EMA here, this orange line on this pullback. We didn't quite touch it again here. But looking for a similar thing, we could come back to it here, but I do think it will act as support and we get squeezed in this triangle with this 21-week exponential moving average eventually pushing us up from the triangle. And currently that moving average is sitting at about 27,900. And again, we don't have to take as long as the previous cycle here, coming all the way up to early October. This could come back, possibly retest this trend line and the 21-week exponential moving average. And then on the next bounce, we break the ascending triangle pattern to the upside, and it could even be in early September. But let's look at the 2-week time frame now for Bitcoin. We did just open a new 2-week candle at the start of the week. These fib levels are based on the regular scale, and we're taking it from the top of this dead cat bounce and the all-time high here. And we notice confluence with the 382 fib and the golden pocket. And I think Bitcoin will eventually come and reach this target. There's also a 2-week order block here from this red candle in an uptrend. And we also have this line of support connecting all of these lows, and it looks like we're getting quite close to that line of support. If we were to do it on this 2-week candle, which has another week to go, and come down to that trend line, it would be down at 27.8k. If we are to do it on the week starting the 14th of August, it moves up to 28.5k. If we pull up the RSI on the 2-week time frame, we do see we have been making higher highs here and higher lows. And we have been also making higher highs on the price and higher lows on the price. So we don't see divergence on the 2-week time frame, even though we did have divergence on the weekly between these points. Going down to the weekly time frame now, I've drawn in that ascending triangle pattern, and we're looking to possibly come back here to retest this trend line for support. And I do also have some fibs drawn in, taking it from this low to the high. We see the 0.5 fib down here at 28.2k, the golden pockets all the way down at 27.4k. And if we were to put the 382 fib in, we are still closing weekly candles above it. That level is at 29.1k. And then we have also added in the 382 fib here, and that's taking it from this low to our high. And we notice confluence with that golden pocket area. So it is still possible that we do come down here, test this trend line, and come into this area where both of these fib levels are at. And that would be somewhere again down at about 27.2k. If we were to do it where the intersection is with the fibs and this trend line, that could be sometime over the next 3 weeks, starting at next week. We don't have to come all the way down here. We could drag it out longer and meet the trend line at the 0.5 fib, and that could possibly be in early September, late August. I really have to let it play out here. Looking at the RSI, here's that bearish divergence we looked at. We made lower highs on the RSI, higher highs on the price, and that's playing out currently. But again, we don't have that on the 2-week, so the time frames don't fully agree. So I do think it's just a correction and not a new low compared to this low. And then we also have this white box drawn in on the RSI here, and we notice in bull runs, this area on the RSI acts as support on all these pullbacks, and this level is between 50 and 56 on the RSI. And we saw several times here on these pullbacks, it acted as support, as we did make this run in the bull run. Looking at this cycle we're being comparing to, there's that triangle pattern. We saw we did dip into this white box here on this pullback. And that's the other reason I don't think we come lower than this low. We can see we are quite close to that white box. It acted as support twice here on these pullbacks, also on this pullback. So it can be helpful to get the low here. And we are currently at a 57 reading. I think if we pull back into this, we won't go below it. It'll act as support, and we would enter that white box if the pullback does come to some of these other targets here. Just going back to that previous cycle again, we also notice how the 21-week exponential moving average in green here also lined up with that white box, and we pull back to that 21-week EMA and also this white box on the pullbacks. It acted as support during this entire bull run. And the opposite is true in bear markets. We get rejected from this white box once we go below it, and we see we get rejected from that 21-week EMA. Applying that to our current price action, we have that zone on the RSI, but we also have the 21-week EMA, and that's currently sitting at 27.9k. If we just keep going sideways for a few more weeks, this will continue to move up. But again, this will be the lowest I think we go. If we get down here, somewhere between 28k and 27.2k, coming into that 21-week EMA, and still closing the week above it, but possibly wicking below and touching this trend line and possibly these lower fib targets. We also have the 200-week moving average, which is currently sitting at 27.2k. And so there is support here with the moving averages. The other thing we can look at also is the VPVR, the amount of volume traded at certain price levels. And we do see quite a few spikes here. There has been a lot of volume here where we're currently at 29.2k. And then we see another spike down here at 28k. This is another weekly order block here in blue. And we see support all the way down to about 26.8k here on the VPVR. And just another reason why I think we get support here and we don't end up breaking below these key levels. And going down to the daily time frame now, everything drawn in is the same. We have those same fib levels, and just zooming in on the daily, we can see how this 382 fib has continued to support price even with these daily candles. We have wicked below it about 8 times here, but we have closed all these daily candles still above this 382 fib, above 29,127. Doesn't mean I don't think we can go lower, but it is acting as support at the time being. If we look at the RSI now, looking at these two lows on the price action and drawing in that trend line on the RSI, connecting the corresponding lows, we could possibly come back to this trend line and get a third touch. And again, it corresponds to both of these lows here. We have this trend line drawn in connecting these two lows, but we could also add another trend line here, just connecting that low, and this area may become significant also. So we can watch both these trend lines. This way it does correspond also with the RSI trend lines, but I wouldn't be fearful until we broke this lower trend line, connecting both of these lows. So what are we looking for here to know the bottom of this pullback is in? The main thing I'm looking for, and this could be the only signal, and it would tell me that the previous low was the bottom of the pullback, is if we get the hash ribbon buy signal. This is basically telling us when there is minor capitulation. We don't get this signal all the time, but when we do get a buy signal, generally means the previous low was the low and we're not going back to that level. This one was an incorrect signal. It did say this was the low, but I do believe if we didn't have that FTX collapse, this would have been the low of the bear market. But it does have about a 90% hit rate. We can see here this buy signal did indicate that the previous low here was the low. And and we saw a rally from that. So it can be a bit of a late signal. We can get the buy signal after we've already moved up, but it is a lot more reliable. And there are other things we can use. I am looking at Market Cipher. And on Market Cipher now, what I am looking for is one of these major green dots on the daily time frame, not these smaller green dots, one of the major ones. We saw how this one did get the bottom here of this pullback, and this one also got the bottom here of this pullback. So they are a lot more reliable than these smaller green dots. Obviously, in a bear market, I don't rely on these as a signal, but I do believe we are in a bull market. But we can see we did get this smaller green dot. The blue wave didn't quite come down low enough to trigger this major green dot. But we can see we may get a red dot here, and the blue wave might go for one more dip, and we might see that one more dip down, possibly to 28 or even as low as 27.2k. And then I'll look for that major green dot on the daily as a pretty good indication that the bottom of that pullback is in. And for it to be even more reliable, we can look on the 2-day time frame for that green dot. If we get both of those, that is a pretty reliable sign to me that the bottom is likely in on that pullback. We saw here the 2-day green dot was a pretty good signal. This one wasn't quite as good here. But again, if we use it in conjunction with that major daily green dot, which did happen on this occasion, it is a lot more reliable. We have seen since the last video, which was a few candles back, the blue wave has been coming down. It's starting to level off slowly. So this could take maybe another week before we see that green dot. Depending on what happens, we might have that one more drop. It might stretch it out a couple of weeks. But they're all the three things I'm looking for. A major daily green dot, not one of these regular ones, and the 2-day green dot, and also that hash ribbon buy signal. And the hash ribbon buy signal could take a lot longer. So if we just get that major daily green dot and the 2-day green dot, that would be good enough for me to think the bottom of the pullback's in. While we're here on Market Cipher, let's look at the other time frames. This is the 3-day time frame. We also see that blue wave coming down here. It does look like it's starting to curve a little bit here. So again, it can start with that daily green dot and then the 2-day, build it up on the 3-day and so on and get that momentum. The higher the time frame, the later the buy signal might be on that green dot. We see here the 3-day green dot was on this candle, so we may have missed that move. Just depends on your risk level and how certain you want to be on a trade. The 4-day time frame, we had that red dot back on the 16th of July. The blue wave still coming down here. Same with the 5-day, it's still coming down here. And again, we look at them all together. It can build up from the daily to the 2-day, the 3-day. That can give us a boost to turn around these higher term time frames. And we did used to line up Market Cipher on all the time frames on the chart. That was very useful to see it as one picture, but that's no longer an option with the update on Market Cipher. I'm unable to line up all the time frames on the one chart, unfortunately. The 6-day also had its red dot confirmed on Sunday, and the weekly also had its red dot confirmed at the start of the week. And we did open that new 2-week candle. There is a red dot currently. It won't be confirmed till the 14th of August if it stays around. And if we look back at the previous cycle we've been comparing to, which is over here, this is where that ascending triangle pattern is. We saw on the 2-week, we did have red, green dot. So it was quite choppy here. And just because we get a red dot, it doesn't mean we come all the way down with the blue wave and a major correction. In a bull market, the blue wave on these higher term time frames tends to stay quite high. So we could possibly just be doing a similar thing here. I think that's about all. Hope you enjoyed that analysis on Bitcoin Mamo. I'll see you next time. Bye.